Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us and welcome. Thanks for tuning in here to episode 32 of the Heat Press for Profit podcast. My name is Dave here with Stahls and Transfer Express, and I'm very excited for today's topic. We're talking all about artificial intelligence, AI tools that apparel decorators could utilize. I know it's a super hot button issue that's very polarizing these days, right? So it's going to be really great to talk about it today. Today, I am going to bring on a fellow apparel decorator here, Todd Downing. And Todd is the owner over at Fat Dad Custom Designs. We're going to chat all about how apparel decorators and entrepreneurs can leverage AI tools to help streamline processes and save time with a variety of tasks, all the way from artwork creation to content and even marketing. So, Todd, thank you so much for joining us here today on the Heat Press for Profit podcast. Do you want to start by just telling us a little bit about you and kind of how you got into the apparel decorating business, how long you've been in it?
Well, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having us here. And absolutely, I'm just like every one of you. I woke up one day and said, I'm going to be an apparel decorator. That's what I did. I said, we're going to do that. Who am I kidding? None of us have done that. At least I don't know anybody who decided one day they're going to do it. Most of us fell into it. And that's how I did it. We got started looking at the timeline. It's been about 16, 17 years ago where we got started, and it was all in the cut decal side of things. And we were racing cars, and we didn't have a lot of money for that. So to compensate for that, we made decals. That's how we lettered our cars. And someone said, hey, you can make shirts with that stuff. I'm like, get out of here. No way. So we started doing some research, and we came across this guy named Josh. And he was just this lonely guy over at Stahls, and he was in the t-shirt forum really pushing this stuff. So a lot of crap was given over it back then. You're not a real printer because you're not screen printing, but I'm like, there's something here. Like, this has been around. This is it. And that's what we started with. So, we ordered up some material, and we've been Stahls fans since then. And the amount of knowledge that Josh gave us back then helped bring us to it is. So it's kind of full circle. He's helped us out, and now it's our turn to give back. So that's what we've been doing, the last probably 5 years now. Is we really focused on the business, and we're really focused on helping others in the community overcome the obstacles that we had in the beginning. If we can give a jump start to business and help them get to where we are and beyond. I tell our people we work with that I would love to see everybody 10x our business. If I can get you out of 7 figures consistently, awesome. Because it's all part of giving back. The more we can give back, the more everybody helps out. So we're really excited to be here to do this. AI is scary, right? Everybody's scared. But we're going to make it better today.
Before we full jump in, I do want to mention you touched on community there and kind of where you got started. And I have to say, I really appreciate your contributions to our community, the Stahls Heat Press for Profit group over on Facebook. You jump in there all the time, be able to help other decorators out. And you mentioned Josh in those t-shirt forums back in the day, but I love seeing how this community has grown, and contributors just like you. I come from a music background where it should really be a community, and seeing a lot of it turn into competition. Whereas as apparel decorators in this national economy, we are kind of in competition with each other, but seeing the care for the craft and just the care for other people to help them, grow their own business is just really beautiful. It's really awesome. And I really appreciate you and everybody else out there in the Heat Press for Profit group who shares ideas, inspiration, and those tips and tricks that just make the apparel decorating industry better as a whole. So really cool. I do appreciate you for that. And I do appreciate you having you on here to talk about AI. But before we get on to AI, I do want to mention, if you're not already a member of that Heat Press for Profit group, get on over there. What are you waiting for? Join the community of apparel decorators and see how maybe some of those ideas could grow your business. But Todd, I saw the reason I have you on, because we had this on the schedule for AI. I've been leveraging a ton of AI, but I saw one of your comments there saying how much you were leveraging AI. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you started to really adapt that technology, or what you even kind of use it for?
Yeah. Well, the weird thing is for whatever reason, people are scared of AI. And I don't understand why, because you're using it every day and don't even realize it. I mean, how many of us have written emails in the last 5 years and Google finishes our sentence for us, right? Or on our phone, it does it right there. So you're using it and you don't have any problem with that, but you think it's going to, ruin your business, or it's going to not make you original anymore. You're stealing content from other people. And that's not all AI is. there's so many other things that come along with it. Like for us, where we really use it at was in scheduling posts, in doing our email campaigns, in doing tasks that normally take us time to do. If we can spend less time and have AI do it for us, we get our time back. And so it was ways.
Time is money, right?
Yeah, time's money. Like for us, for our shop rate, it's $125 an hour. No, I'm not making $125 an hour. That's what it costs to run our shop. You're only doing production 30-40% of the time. The other 60-70%, you're doing phone calls, you're doing artwork, you're doing other stuff. So that's where that comes in at. So we know we can basically say that every minute is $2. So how can we save that? Well, if we can save 10 minutes a day, that's $20 times 5 days. There's 100. So we do it every day or every week. That's $400. That takes care of a bill, right? That's one of the business bills paid for by saving 10 minutes a day and having AI do something for us. Now, you can get into some trouble with AI if you don't use it properly, but that comes with everything, and the only way to find out if it works for you, and I guarantee at least something of AI is going to work for you, is to get out there and do it. You're going to screw stuff up, and that's fine. Don't be scared of it. Just get out there and do it. And for us, the easiest thing was like email campaigns, just to set those up and do it. And it made it consistent, so we were always putting a message out there, at least weekly on it. And then the second, probably one that anybody can do today, because we're watching on Facebook, is to go into their business suite and do it for Facebook posts, to be able to consistently post things. And where we've seen people really struggle with that is like, I feel like I'm spamming my people, right? Because I'm putting it out there. Well, think about it. When you hear a song on the radio, do you hear it once and you don't hear it again for 2 or 3 days? No, when they want something, you hear it every hour. And think when you're scrolling on your phone, you're not scrolling back hours upon hours upon hours, are you? You're usually doing it 5-10 minutes and it's there. So if you're not consistently putting your message out there, it's not being seen. So you can't say that you're spamming it when nobody's ordering from you. And when people tell you that, hey, I'm getting tired of seeing your messages, now you're getting close. But to go into that scheduler to know, yep, I can schedule this, this, and this. The great thing about that is you don't have to be there for it. So that's where you kind of run into a little backside problem, is people always think I'm online, ready to go and answer their questions. Hey, here's the secret. I spend about an hour a week scheduling Facebook posts for the week. And
But
and just schedule them up there. And so people assume I'm online. I'm like, oh, I'm not here. It's just me. So it works out great when you're on vacations, when you're taking time away. It always seems like it's still going.
Or even just working in the shop, because I know, like, when I talk a lot to apparel decorators, and marketing seems to be that one thing that always is that thing that's coming up that's like, I just don't have time for it. It's just so tedious. And when you look at somebody maybe like yourself, where like, oh, they're posting all the time, they have all this great content, and AI could be that catalyst for number one, inspiration. Because I know a lot of people are like, well, what am I going to post? What's relevant to my audience? If you kind of pepper into AI, and we'll get to like AI prompts here in a little bit, because I think that's really where the magic happens. But like when you start peppering in the audience a little bit, or what you do, you get it to kind of learn a little bit about yourself. You get to bring that aspect of yourself to life in that AI. That is super easy. It's a super easy lift. And then that entire month of social media schedule, you said what? Like you spend an hour pretty much putting that together. And that's because of AI giving you the tools to do that fast. So you're saving money while still getting quality marketing out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on average, we'll have at least 5 posts go out a day, because we have our morning motivations. We have a post that goes out every morning where it has some kind of quote, some kind of something that goes along with it. Then we'll usually have 2 production photos, or videos or something that goes out. And we'll talk about how you can use that, where you can post in one spot and it'll post everywhere. And that really helps out at. And then we'll have some fun things in there. We always like to have things in there like questions, answers. This week, a couple of them was, peanut butter and 3 dots. And so it was like great to see the response that people are putting, that are putting with it. For whatever reason, peanut butter and mayo, I had no clue that this existed, but it's a thing. And more than one person said it. And I'm like, I don't know about this. And then, one was, what was the best decade for music? And what do you like? What about trends that you saw? And it's creating that engagement. And anytime you can do that, and Facebook sees engagement, Facebook will promote that thing. So you have your good, healthy balance of I'm trying to be salesy. I'm trying to, generate content. I'm trying to be relatable. So you figure out what your people like, and then you lean on that. And that's what we found. And so, we're minimum posting 5 times a day. So if you look at that, that's 35 posts a week. AI helps a lot with that.
Yeah. And then, so you even mentioned that aside from social media, you're using it for email scripts as well,
Yep.
like essentially automated email. Tell me a little
Mhm.
bit more about that, and kind of we could start to dabble into the prompts, because
Yep.
just if you're not using AI out there, there's tons of free tools that you need to do it. But essentially, you get everything started, whether it's an artwork generator or a marketing tool like ChatGPT that is just
Mhm.
text based. Everything starts with a prompt. And the way that I try to liken it is like those early days of Google, right? Where like there was I'm going to date myself, Ask Jeeves was out there, right? Yahoo. There was all of these other like search engines that were available. However, not everybody was the best at like communicating exactly what they wanted, but Google really started to tie that together, and it made them pretty much put every other company out of business. But AI is a very similar way, where you need to tailor it with a prompt. So tell me a little about those email scripts that you're doing for the marketing, and what kind of prompts are you feeding it to get those results that make sense for your business?
Absolutely. So think of it like this when it comes to prompts. I can say, hey, Dave, bake me a cake. Right? Dave, bake me a chocolate cake. Dave, bake me a chocolate 3-layered cake. Dave, bake me a chocolate 3-layered cake with icing. So it all comes down to how much information you get it. It's only as good as what you give it. It's only going to take what you have and put back out of it. Now, am I a master of prompts? Not at all. But what I have found is I'm a master of finding people who have good prompts. So yesterday we actually spent, we weren't, we'll go back through it today, but there is an 8-hour summit all on AI. And
Mhm.
so from what I was able to do, it was all broke up in half-hour increments. So it's going to be perfect to go back and watch. But just to see how much ChatGPT has changed from November to now, and it's just what we're talking about today, probably in 2 months from now, isn't going to matter because it's going to change. But you're getting on the edge of that. So you're seeing better prompts. You're seeing people that's their business now, is just creating prompts for you to go through. So for us, it always comes down to the content. We start with going to ideas, and it is we start with answer the people. So if we go to answer the people, we can put in there, and if we put in heat transfer vinyl, well, it's going to give us all these content ideas about what has to do with that. So now we can take that and okay, we're going to build our show with that. So for us, we do Tuesday with Todd every Tuesday night, where just does a mirage of products, just depending on what it is, whatever's going on in the industry. And then we do lives 3 times a week in the morning. So we'll use that content to decide, okay, how are we going to work shows? What are we going to put in here? Well, now we can take that content and then we can use that, or that generator. Now we can create scripts for it, bullet points, and then take from those and create email campaigns. So we can take that one general idea that we got here and just break it down further and further into the pieces that we want. Do we want Facebook posts out of that? Do we want Instagram posts? What should we post with this to go along with it? So you start getting all these other little pieces from it, and you don't have to use it all. But what it does is give you a great starting point for it. Because
Absolutely.
and I don't know how a lot of other people are, but we're good at what we do. We like being a designer. We like being a decorator. We like being this. But when it comes to that side of it, on the marketing side of it, let's be honest, we all suck at it, right? Like we're just trying to figure it out, and it's
Mhm.
because we're too cheap to pay somebody to do it. That's really what it comes down to. When somebody says, hey, it's $500 a month for this, $500 a month. Like, are you kidding me? Well, hey, you spend $500 a month, and if you're able to work with the marketer and they're able to get you one job, that pays for it.
Mhm.
So you start
Marketing's free if it works.
right, and that's the thing when you start looking at it, like us when we run Facebook ads, if we don't get $2 back for every dollar we spend, it was a bad ad.
Mhm.
It should pay for itself and generate revenue. And when we get with our marketing team, that was where we started looking at most of us getting started. We're a solopreneur. Maybe we have a wife or a partner or somebody that can help us out when needed. We're working a day job. We've got all this time that is already taken up by other things. But here we are, killing ourselves over trying to figure out how to do the rest of this. Well, why don't you just hire somebody in? Well, I can't afford to bring somebody in because I don't have enough work for them. Completely understandable. We got to a point in our business where we needed to figure out how we could get more time. And it was either going to be put more systems in place to free up that time or hire somebody. Well, we decided putting systems in place to free up the time makes way more sense, because I'm fine if we have a bad week. I'll get over it. If we have employees and we have a bad week, I still got to cover them. So now I'm not only looking out for my family, I'm looking out for theirs. So let's put
Mhm.
some systems in place before we get to that point. And one of the ones that we did was, work with a marketing company, because it just makes more sense. If they can save me, if we use the math of it's $2 a minute, $125 an hour, all I need them to do is to save me 5 hours a month. That's it. They save me 5 hours. I paid for that. So anything I get back from that is even better. And we can go back and forth and talk ideas on here's what we're doing, here's what we want. They ask questions and we just turn it over to them. And it frees up so much more time and allows me to, that time I was working on that before coming up with all this, to now use it to actually look into it more. Like, here, let me explore this a little bit more. How can I find out more information about it? How can I better my business without breaking the bank? And AI definitely takes care of that for you.
Oh yeah, and it sure does. And so you mentioned, like, I mean, you have your social posts, you have your content, and all of these ideas that kind of spur out on that. But I saw that you even mentioned like product descriptions and like even like using it for sales funnels then too.
Yeah.
How do you leverage those tools? And I imagine that we're talking pretty much about like Chat GPT for the most part here.
Yeah, for us, everything starts in ChatGPT. Well, it starts with Answer Public, and then it goes into ChatGPT. Because if we're trying to content generate, okay, what's trending, what's going on with it? Because like, even now, I can't scroll more than, and that's because I've got a lot of decorators on my page. I probably can't scroll more than 10 posts without seeing somebody post something about a chair because of the brawl that happened in Alabama last week. And that's what it is. It's what's trending. So people are using those to generate content. So when you find out what's trending, how can you generate content for it? Can you make memes for it? Can you schedule posts for it? Can you create an email blast for it? How can you use what's out there? AI does that for you, and ChatGPT is a great tool for it. And it does come down to the prompts. You're going to do research to find out what you want, because, I mean, I bet you couldn't even begin to fathom how many prompts you could come up with. There's just so many different ways to do it. Do you want to write in this style with this sound of voice, with this theme? What you'll do is you'll start going through and you just got to get in there and play with it. And you're like, oh, that doesn't sound like me. I want it to sound more fun or more witty. Or, okay, then ask it. Rewrite that sounding more like this. Rewrite this with my information in here. And so there's so much more that it can do, but you need to spend the time to get in there to do it. It's just not going to magically happen. It's like when somebody says, Facebook ads don't work. Okay, well, why didn't they work? Well, I spent $50 and nobody bought anything. All right, well, who did you put it to? Well, I put it to everybody. Well, like the same thing that you're selling to the soccer mom isn't the same thing that you're selling to the 80-year-old fisherman. And like, you can't do that. You need to know who your target is. And that's the big point of it. So just like this, when saying, Chat GPT doesn't work, it doesn't help me. Just be honest with yourself. It's you. You're the problem. You're the problem with your business. You're the problem with everything. The sooner I accepted that everything that's gone wrong in my business is my fault, this felt like, I had a weight lifted off my shoulder. It's nobody's fault. It's mine. You figure it out and get through it.
And then they start solving those problems.
Yeah, you start going through it like, okay, how can I fix that? How can I make things better? When things get screwed up and you're able to see, okay, how can I put a system in place so that doesn't happen? I mean, we got to look at our businesses just not as apparel decorators, but why can't we be the McDonald's of apparel decoration, where I can put somebody in that spot and they just make it? You can go to any McDonald's and that Big Mac and those fries taste the same. Why? They have systems in place for that to happen. So we can do that same thing. So if we need somebody to come in, they can just come in and work. I can have somebody just go do this part of it. Guess what? Use ChatGPT to write out your standard operating procedure. Here's how this goes. We use it a lot in those idea generations where what do I want to talk about? I know this is but give me some bullet points on it. Give me some topical ideas. Oh, I like that one. How can we expand on it? And you go that way with it. Yeah. There's end all be all. This is the perfect prompt. You use this and you'll have everything that you need. It just doesn't work that way, because even though all of our businesses are similar, they're all different too. We want it to sound like you. We want it to represent your business, your community culture, everything that goes along with you. You just have to get in there and do it.
Yep. And I think you touched on that perfectly, because I wanted to bring up, you said it's like that starting point, that catalyst, that idea generator, which truly it is. And I think a lot of people look at AI and they look at the stuff that it spits out like, well, I'm going to ask it to do this and it's going to be perfect. And that is very, very clear. We haven't even started to touch on artwork generation yet, but it's very clear when you talk about that. But the way that I use it all the time is that exact same way. You can't expect it to give you that fully fleshed out idea. And of course you could train it to kind of, I've thrown, writings that I've done, blog posts and kind of scripts or outlines for videos to say like, hey, write this in this voice. And the more you train it, the more it starts to speak like you, but it only knows what it knows. It doesn't know what you know. And it definitely, I would still say that AI is getting closer to kind of bringing that human element, that relatability into it. But it still kind of misses it. But I think that's the thing that a lot of people say when it's like, it doesn't work for me. They expected it to spit out an absolutely perfect, production ready. I could publish this, I could deploy this as is without any editing, and that's just truly not the case. That it's not a magic wand, right?
Yeah.
I look at it as a tool in your toolbox, and I think that goes into some of that fear that people have of like, it's going to take our jobs. Like, it's not going to take your job. It's a tool, like you could go and build a house with a hammer and a nail. You absolutely can do it, but is it going to be a lot faster if you have a pneumatic powered air gun? Of course it's going to be, but you need to know how to utilize those tools and effectively, or use them effectively when you're talking about editing them. And I think that's something that that gets overlooked very easily. So I'm glad you really touched on it, is being able to take a catalyst for an idea, spit it out, spit it in. And sometimes it's just like the first word, that first sentence that you're like, the writer's block. You sit down, look at a blank page, and you're like, and then it takes you a half an hour to get over that, and time is money. And I mean, when you're charging $2 an hour for yourself to keep the lights on, the overhead costs, and that's number one, great that you have that factored out, because I think a lot of apparel decorators don't even look into it that granularly or think that it's even that important. But when you put it into that perspective, it really starts to get that profit, that revenue mind rolling. So that's fantastic. But then, so you get this prompt, you have your prompt, you spit it in, it spits you back some ideas. That's now, you could put that as the first sentence on the page, and now you're off and running. It spurred all of these ideas. Or you take what it spit out, because sometimes, you mentioned the AI could get you in trouble sometimes. Now we're lawyers, like that guy who got disbarred because it's just cited things. And I've never actually seen, I've used AI and ChatGPT now for 8 months, I think, on a fairly regular basis, and I've never seen it do those hallucinations, right, where it like makes things up. But a lot of times I'm asking about apparel decorating. It's quite well documented, but there's tons of things that I leverage my own expertise to go, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. And so if you're not editing, you're not proofreading it, you're not really putting that personality or your knowledge back into it, that it could lead you astray.
Oh, 100%. I think, when especially starting off with ChatGPT, everybody assumes, you're going to have Jarvis from Iron Man right there to do it. And if you're not doing it right, you're going to end up with Jar Jar Binks. It's just not going to work out well. It's kind of be clunky. It's just going to look weird. You got to go in there and fix it yourself. But that's part of it. It was almost, if you go back to high school when we had to write those first papers, they were horrible. And remember all the red marks that would come back on it because this doesn't work here, that doesn't work there. That's how it is. By the end of the semester, you're like, oh, okay, I can actually write something and somebody can understand it. It's the same thing with this. It just takes practice to do. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. The more it knows your voice, knows your prompts, knows what you want, the more results that you're going to get out of it.
And it's getting better, like you mentioned, by the day. The newest version just came out just a couple weeks ago, and you could even, if you have the plus version of OpenAI's ChatGPT, you could actually get the newest. And for the most part, it does a really, really good job. I know it has limited learning. You ask it for current events, and it's like, I don't know current events. I know up to 2021. And
right.
So
even with that, there's so many add-ons that you can put on now where it will do things that it wouldn't be able to do, it can now do. So, you can spend, go down the rabbit hole and spend hours just looking at the different add-ons that you can add on to it to help, help you more. And that's a whole other thing. You talk, hours just on here's add-ons to try. And you're going to look at those and be like, oh, I didn't know it can do this, because it does more than just prompts. Do you want graphs? Do you want, inventory management? What do you want it to do? It's going to do. It might take a little tweaking on it. One of the things that we had it do, which I just wanted to see if it was going to work, in our digital side on e-commerce, we're using Lightspeed Equid. And one of the issues that they had was you weren't able to do a square area calculator. I reached out to him and said, hey, what can we do on this? I'm like, oh, we can build you the code, and it's $5,000 for it, and that's just what it is. I'm like, is it really worth it to do? I can switch over to Shopify, and it's something that's on it in there. So I just decided, hey, is this something that ChatGPT can do? Yeah, it did it. And it walks you through. You ask it questions, you prompt it, and it can build it for you. So it can code for you. It can do a lot. On that last one, when they did the release, they had taken a picture of how they had a layout of a website, and between that and Midjourney, it built the website for them. So you can do so much with it. It's just it's endless. And I think that's where it scares a lot of people, is they're just like, I don't know what to do. I know it can do this. I know it can do that. You know, it's like going into, you know, an amusement park when you're a kid. What do I get on first? I want to do it all, but what do I do first? It's that same way with it.
Oh yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Midjourney because now as apparel decorators, I think that's where a lot of people's mind goes is like,
Mhm.
oh, I could use AI for art. And from what I've seen, the stuff that Marshall Atkinson is doing with Midjourney and like the
Mhm.
prompts, really, I was like, I played around with DALL-E a little bit and was like, it's great. The free tools like Crayon or something, like stuff like that, you're like, nah, it's not really usable. Bing now has DALL-E integrated into it. The Microsoft AI is a great free tool. And so, like, all you need is a Microsoft account. Midjourney, obviously, next level stuff that is kicking out like fantastic artwork. But even in Midjourney, like you have to have a good proper prompt. And now we're actually talking about, you know, using AI generated art to print on shirts as we're apparel
Mhm.
decorators, but that goes into those prompts that have to be specific too. The one that I found was working really well was like a coloring book page or
Yeah.
vector style, black and white silhouettes. Like as long as you're putting that in there for the styles, like you're going to get usable art that then you could easily turn into an SVG, cut with a vinyl cutter, or import into any software to be able to order direct to film prints. And you could say hard edge or make it look like a sticker, whatever it needs to be able to really take that up. So, are you using artwork generators, and which ones are you using, and how are you applying it to your apparel decorating business?
Yeah, we're using is Midjourney. Two resources that we found that have been really good with it is, you mentioned Marshall. He's got a monthly newsletter. I think it's like $10 or something. But you know, when people say, "Oh, you know, I got to pay for the information," where are you going to find it yourself? If somebody's going to curate that information for me, I'm going to do it. And the other one is Dane from Great Dane. I just did a training with him last month, and you know, Dane comes from that art side. So to see him excited about something, you know, on this, and to talk, you know, he was an artist, here's how this works, and you know, what's it going to do to the business, how it's there, it just opened my eyes even more, because here's somebody who did that side of it now being, yeah, this is where that, and to see how the excitement, you could literally see the excitement in when we're doing in Illustrator and, you know, generating fill. It's like there's the back of a horse that wasn't there. Like, how did it just, you know, it's crazy to see that type of stuff. So yeah, we use it a lot. Those two resources I'd highly recommend getting with it to help you kind of get through that Midjourney experience, because it can be especially in the beginning, you know, like, oh, I got to do Discord and I got to do this, but now there's talks that Midjourney is just going to end up on its own, so you don't have to use Discord anymore, which I think that would help out a lot. But one of the side projects that we're working on is we are going to, and we're in the process of working on it, is create coloring books that are from Midjourney, printed through Amazon, and we don't have to do nothing but prompt. And so that's what we want to just see. Is it something that's going to work? You know,
Mhm.
is it something, because I look at that as that's a legacy print. I don't have to do anything, and that'll always be there. And so maybe it only generates $10 a month. Well, okay, so if it only took me a half hour to do it, it's $10 a month. But what does that come out to? Well, in a year, that paid for that, you know, that hour to do it. Now, if I have more, can it work more? We don't know. So we're going to try and use it for that. But
Mhm.
where we use it at is to generate those ideas. You know, maybe somebody wants to see, you know, a bear with a top hat, smoking a cigar, playing poker. What? Well, okay, well, here, let me run it through there, because otherwise you're trying to put this clip art together, you're trying to design this, and let's face it, most of us aren't designers, right? We got in this and we're doing other companies' logos. They're like, here, can you do this for me? Can you do that? Yeah, we are clip art arrangers. We will do our best with it. But now you want me to design something? Well, you're paying a designer to do it. And I know this is a shocker, but most people aren't charging people to have designs done for them. There's not an art fee with it. They're wrapping in there. Why?
Yep.
You're doing something custom for it. Why are you not charging for that? They don't want
Yep.
to pay it. They're not your customer. Move them along. But to get those ideas, well, hey, what do you think this is this? Because you're still going to refine that. You're still going to bring it in and still be able to tweak it here and there. But it's that same point. It's going to get you to that base point of where things are.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're still spending hours trying to figure stuff out. So it all comes down to that base point. If I can do less to get more, I'm going to do it. And Midjourney, it's one of those tools where it's getting better. I seen somebody yesterday and hands looked real. like hands. I was like, okay, that's
Midjourney's got it. The hands and teeth with people. As I,
and, there's still things like, people want to do logos with words. It's not going to do that for you.
Yes.
It's not going to recognize that. But if you are able to add the words to it, just leave it off. Hey, I need, a picture in this style, and go through the prompts to be able to get it so it's easily removable from the background. You can convert it how you want. There's a lot of, Dane had a lot of great tricks in his training for it, and go through that. Go find all those trainings and take them. You're going to better your business. You're going to have a better understanding of it. And even if you have somebody else do something for you, you're going to know how it works. How can I better them? Okay, this makes sense. This is what it's looking for. Like me, am I ever going to screen print or embroider? No, but I want to understand those processes. So when I work with my embroider, I understand that we can't use this same design as we for this product as this product because of size, shape, 3D puff, whatever. I can have a better understanding of it. And it's the same way with this. You're going to get in there. You're going to screw things up. You're going to make it better. Just keep at it, and you'll get it. And the results that you get from it they're just amazing. It blows my mind how quick it takes what I have and does it. And one of the things that people think is you're stealing somebody else's artwork. Somebody didn't have that bear top hat smoking a cigar playing poker. It created it. So it took parts from different things and it did it. And it's almost like, people always want to know where it comes from or how's it doing this or where it's there. I couldn't tell you the last time I went into a restaurant and I said, hey, well, where'd that steak come from? Where'd those potatoes come? Where did this? All I care is at the end, the meal on my plate turned out great. It's kind of the same thing with this. Do you really need to know where everything comes from and how it works?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, if you were to know how half your food came to you, you wouldn't eat it, right? You just wouldn't. You don't want to know what happens.
They don't want to know how the sausage is made.
I don't want to know. I just want to know that it's good on my plate, and that's what this is. All of this stuff with AI is good on your plate. You don't need to know how it works or why it works. It just works.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned like those different styles too, because that's one thing that even as a trained designer, right, that I think I'm fairly proficient, but sometimes some of those prompts that customers want, the bear in a top hat smoking a cigar, like what style do you want it in? Do you want it vector drawn? Am I doing it with a pen tool? Am I bringing it in and making it look a little bit more realistic? Am I adding color to it? Where any of those different variations from the original prompt that maybe is a detail that your client leaves out when they're giving you this, that like if you were say I'm designing myself, every single one of those changes to the prompt just added 2 more hours to the work that I'm going to have to do, where it just adds several seconds. And then even with like those the styles or the elements, like the way that I really view it, you touched on like it's never going to do text. It's never going to go full design. So if you're like the one I just did a video a couple weeks ago where it was like, utilizing AI in a real production sense. Because a lot of people are like, it's cool, but I don't have a production use for it. Well, when you ask it for, give me a t-shirt design for a classic car show, it's going to fail. It's going to leave you disappointed. You're like, there's elements in there that might be good. But you say, give me a vintage Ford Mustang in a lino cut style, and it spits it out black and white that you're easily able to pull in, adjust, and then add in either in Illustrator, Photoshop, what Corel Draw, Affinity Designer, Easy View Designer on Transfer Express, whatever you're doing, you're able to bring those elements in and then actually like fill out the text and have that new piece of clip art that it completely generated. And I will say, like, I'm not that huge. I can't recognize a vintage Mustang, but there was one little weird thing with the bumper that I'm like, that's enough. Like the bumper kind of angles down there. Like that's kind of weird. But nobody's really going to notice, if it's going to a car show, car guys are going to notice and be like, what's going on with that? So, but I just let it fly and I kind of found it after the point. But then I was walking through the local supermarket and I walked down the toy aisle with my daughter, and there's a model for a vintage Mustang with the bumper that angles just like that. It's a detail that I probably would have missed just tracing. I might have found it in some source imagery, but AI is able to pull that in. So it was spot on exactly what it was going to be. And like, of course, maybe I had to spit it through a couple prompts because AI always likes to have those fun little crops where it's like you ask it for a horse and like you mentioned, like the horse butt is kind of cut off a little bit. You ask for the car and the front bumper and the back bumper is just clipped a little bit. But even then, like saying side view, 3/4, low angle, cinematic. These are all things that like you really get from those resources if you're talking with Dane or Marshall. And I don't want to keep going back to Marshall here, but the way that you said he has this pure excitement for this technology, and I have the luxury of doing the heat press transformation series powered by Stahls with Marshall Atkinson. You could see those on YouTube. But the one time we were going to a shop visit, and he was telling me about how excited he was about AI. It always goes back to AI. He's got a class at the Impressions Expo coming up on it, but he kind of likened it to the advent of the personal computer, and really how that completely took hours of work and made it accessible. You could save things all right here. You could easily find things. And it just completely changed the way that any company is going to do business. And he truly believes, and the more and more that I use it, like, I truly believe that this AI kind of revolution is truly going to revolutionize the way that, and not just creatives, but financial analysts. You talk about those the graphs and the charts, coders, developers, like, it's going to touch on so much and be this incredible tool. And while it's not taking your job, somebody who is utilizing those tools will be able to take your job. So you got, like, now is the time, if you are not already playing with it, to really get in and just start playing around with it. Because it's very quickly, I think, like you mentioned, you're going to see these use cases or these elements then that you could start pulling out, that inspiration, that kind of automation. Everybody's looking for ways to do more with less, or do more with what they have. You had a great point there about, like, the responsibility as a business owner of hiring employees, that now you're not just looking out for your own family, you're looking out for others' families too. So, like, being able to continue the efficiency and maybe not have to bring that as a solo entrepreneur or a small business is really great in there. So yeah, fantastic. We are running out of time here though, Todd. I feel like we could talk literally all day about this stuff.
Yes, yes, we can. When I look at AI and where it's at, in my lifetime, being mid 40s, is I can only compare it to two things. When the internet came out, when that was there, and then smartphones. I mean, those are the two things in my generation that really changed how we did, daily tasks. When we were kids, you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket. Yes, I am. Now what? Now what, Mr. Matternack? I got a calculator in my pocket, and I can do math whenever. But that's the thing, this is how this is changing. It is constantly evolving. It's going to get better. And if you don't, pick it up, you're going to get passed by. And you're going to wonder why people are able to do the things they do. And it's because they've turned to AI. And machines aren't taking over. There's still somebody working those machines. So don't worry about that. But I'd rather be the one controlling the machines than to have somebody else's machines controlling me. So, you just got to get in there and do it.
Before we jump off here, there is just a few questions from our audience out in Facebook. There's a fun one here from one of the quotes. You're the problem with everything. When you realize that you're the problem with everything. Thanks, Mac, for providing that one. We've got another one here. This is a real good one from Nikolai. Can you use AI to vectorize existing artwork? Do you want to take a stab at that one?
So for me, I don't. I haven't even tried, because I have somebody else that does it for me. Like, when it came to me tracing artwork, it's one of those, customer sends me something. If it's not something I can do in 5 minutes, I have a service that takes care of it for me. It's another form of, here's a system in place. Can I do it? Yeah. Should I do it? No, because I'm not going to be able to charge enough to cover my time. If I spend an hour in it, is a customer going to spend $125 for it? If I tell them, hey, it's $40 for it, and I can send it off and have it done for 15, 20, whatever it is, depending on it, I didn't have to do anything. I got that time back. I got paid. So no, I run everything through a service that we've used now for years, and it just works. So, and that's what I look at, that side of things in AI. Do I need it to do everything for me? No. Do I need it to do these tasks that I don't have anything in there? Now, since I haven't played with it, I can't say if it's going to do good or if it's going to do bad. If it gets to a point where I see Marshall telling me to do it, I'll probably look at it a little bit more, and he's like, hey, you can really use it to take care of all this stuff and get rid of that. Okay. But right now, I have not used it for any of that.
Yeah, and I know that there's tons of those, at least for the AI art tools, the DALL-E, the Midjourney, the ones that I've played with. Nothing is necessarily like print ready. Of course, you could use other upscaling tools, paid or free, right? I always like free. Free is great, but obviously you pay for what you get in a lot of those. That's why Midjourney as a subscription is a much better tool than a lot of the free versions out there. However, you could still get usable results with using these free tools. I used, for the example that we did in that video that I mentioned, I had used the Microsoft Bing free AI. It's based on DALL-E 2.5, I believe. So not the latest and greatest, but still pretty good. And then I was able to just easily pull it into Illustrator, click Live Trace, not even adjust any sliders, and essentially have a vector file ready to go very, very easily. But the one thing that I really, really like is the artwork tools. And I can't remember the one off the top of my head, but being able to upload photos and saying, apply it to this style, and being able to stylize those photos. Now, when you have a customer who says like, yeah, I want this to look, here's a photo of my race car. I want it to look like it's going fast, and you don't necessarily have the tools to make it do that. You could be able to do that with that. And even with like Photoshop now, building generative AI into this, the recoloring in Illustrator. There's so many of these tools that like even the software program providers are putting in to really help just the entire workflow. And I saw not necessarily apparel decorators, but I saw photographers absolutely losing their mind over it for being able to retouch photos or change the crop and essentially make up information that wasn't there. And I've always liked, the designer in me has always really liked content aware and being able to essentially sample pixels without the clone stamp tool, getting real into the weeds here in the designer lingo. But now being able to use that with just a text, hey, extend the bookshelf, boom, and it extends the bookshelf and it looks real, right? And now if you're saying like, hey, add a person into this shot, it's gonna be a little weird sometimes, or it'll sample other things. Like if it's a crowded restaurant, it might put somebody right in the foreground that looks like they have way too many teeth or way too many knuckles on their finger, way too many fingers. But seeing how it gets there, and is I even just saw tools today. I do a lot of videos, right? And I saw this tool that came up that was, I don't remember the name of it offhand, but essentially it's an AI tool where you could create an avatar of yourself and essentially feed it scripts and make these deep fake videos where it's me, I'm talking. It has my mannerisms. It has the way I interact or move while I talk, but I don't have to stand in front of a camera ever again. Now, I do tons of video content, so I'm pretty sure somebody would be like, something's off. Dave looks a little robotic. Not quite there. But the more you start playing with this, when it gets there, you are going to be on the leading edge, the cutting edge, being able to absolutely crush it. But I'm just going to check and make sure we don't have any more comments. Calvin says, nice points, just understanding the process. And yeah, so a whole bunch of friends joining in from all around the corners of the internet. So I do want to implore you guys and just urge you, go try these AI tools. You don't have to pay for them up front. There are tons of free tools that you could use. Start to see those ideas, and you're probably going to be like, what's the difference in this paid tool? Let me start it out. And then you're gonna be like, well, this is definitely the way to go. Seeing the artwork that just gets kicked out of Midjourney, like it is fantastic. And being able to do that, you talked, I just want to keep talking, but you talked about,
we could go all day.
you talked about, like being able to take those elements and having customers that, you're not charging for artwork fees, or, if somebody comes to you and they say, well, I want 50 shirts, but I want this design on it. Sometimes the cost of that design is going to be more expensive than the 50 shirts that they're actually going to buy. And now that's just doubled their budget. And they're like, oh, no, I can't get it. All of this now is possible because you could really just shorten all of that time with AI and those artwork tools that are out there to say, hey, here's a few different examples. What do you think of something like this? Even if you are combining it with other elements, adding your own text and stuff into it in whatever design program you're using, or outsourcing it to somebody else on Fiverr, where you're essentially able to better use your time to make revenue and keep the lights on, cover the overhead, cover the family expenses, and still be working out profiting. So that is absolutely fantastic. Todd, again, thank you so much for joining me here today on the Heat Press for Profit podcast. And I thank you all for listening and tuning in. Of course, the Heat Press for Profit podcast and everyone here at Stahls is always aiming to help inspire new ideas, help decorators learn, connect, and reach their own success, whatever that looks like for your shop. Just like Todd, you could interact with me and Todd in the community over on her Heat Press for Profit page over on Facebook, and we are always happy to chat. Todd, I think we're gonna have to revisit this topic maybe in a couple months to talk about the improvements of what's been going on and really share some more use cases on how we could use AI, because I have a whole list here of stuff that we didn't even get to talk about here today. So yeah.
We could definitely do that. Like one of the things is, people say, AI isn't for me. Well, here's a little behind the scenes. Probably 80% of this is AI. It's stuff that when I got the question list through it, I ran it back, put it in, and when it came to this, okay, yep, here's the response I'm going to use for this. Here's the response I'm going to use for that. So I took the information that's provided on the questions. How can I put my spin on it? And it put it there for me, where it gave me those bullet points to talk about for it. So you can do that when you're setting up presentations for meetings. With things. We're our own worst critic. We never charge enough. We don't think our stuff's good enough. We don't think people will pay for it. We don't want to pay for anything. Like, I don't know, this is the wrong business for all of us to be in, because every other one, it's like profit first, right? Everybody's in this to make money. Guess what? Nobody's beating you up on pricing. You go into a store and there's the price on it. If it's on sale, it's on sale. You're not taking it to the counter and saying, yeah, but can I get this cheaper? You're not doing that, but we let people do it to us all the time. The more we take ownership of our business, realize that we have value and we are worth something, and that we deserve to get paid. Profit's not a dirty word. Put systems in place so you can put more profit in your pocket, and you're going to be fine.
I think that's perfect closing words right there. Thank you again so much, Todd. Thanks everybody for listening. And you could always find the Heat Press for Profit podcast live every single Friday, all across social media, LinkedIn and YouTube, here at noon Eastern time. And then all of the replays on demand whenever you need them, wherever you find your podcast. Again, thank you, Todd, and thank you to everybody listening here at home or driving or wherever you are. And I will say, until next time, happy pressing.
See you guys.